Hey, Bernie Matthews here, and I've never made a video like this before, but I've been doing something I think is kind of cool, developing a technique, and I wanted to put it up there, see if anybody else is experimenting along these lines. Now, a couple weeks ago, I did a session, Sunset Sound Studio 1, great mic locker, great room, great console, great drummer, John Mader, with a fantastic sounding kit. Everything came together for me to try this technique, and I want to show you what I came up with. So, all these mics are just mic into the Sunset Sound API mic pre into Pro Tools. Pro Tools is at 96 32-bit, and the room mics are going through an Allen Smart C2. That's the only compression I use to record. No processing at all. This is the naked tracks, and just a little bit of balancing done, and this is what my naked tracks sound like. Pretty good basic start. Sounds like a good drum kit. I'm going to zoom in on that first snare hit. Get really tight in there, okay? Now, as you can see, polarity of the top two is really good. The bottom mic, reverse polarity as you would expect. I reversed it in Pro Tools while we were tracking, but I took that plug-in off, so it's not an issue. Now, here's the cool thing. If you look at the distance from the initial snare hit to the snare hit in the hi-hat, we are looking at a massive 85 samples difference. That's the distance. That's how long it takes the sound to get there. Not quite 96, so we're at 96K, so it's not quite 96, but still audible. You can hear that. Now, if you stretch that to the overheads, bam, 367, or if you look in regular time, we're at 3 milliseconds. So it's getting to be significantly audible. Then you stretch that to the room mics, and now we're double that. We're at 6 milliseconds, okay? So even though everything looks like it's pretty much in polarity, you can see that the distance is 6 milliseconds. That creates an audible flam or phasing, or people hear it in different ways, but certainly creates audible differences in the primary source of the drum. Okay, so now what I do in this little technique that I've done is I slide the tracks in time, and I correct the polarity. So now, this is our leading edge of the snare drum. As you can see, polarity is all correct across all tracks, right? Even the room. And I've time aligned that first hit as well as I can, and you can see the subsequent hits also match up, right? The subsequent waves match up pretty good. Now, there's differences because, for instance, this, you can see this is the snare rattle, keeps that, and there's a low frequency hit on the bottom, and so it diverges, but as you can see, it's not that far, right? Okay, so anyway, this is a real quick, just a real quick explanation. It takes a little bit of work, and it takes a lot of listening, because really just a couple samples difference can make a big difference. So I go through the tracks. The snare is the focus for the room mics, hi-hat, overheads, okay? The overheads are the gold standard. Everything gets moved to them. And then the kick and the toms get adjusted so that they have their own focus. That's one of the reasons that I cut all the leakage out of the tom mics and just use the initial hit. And plus, like I said, the bulk of my sound is coming from the overheads. That's sort of the sound of the drum kit. And the tight mics are really there just to bring those drums forward, give them a little bit more dynamic attack, more punch. So let's go back to our original. This is what the original naked tracks sound like for these drums. Not bad, right? Good basic drum sound, great place to start. You can hear all the drones, they got full frequency, ready to be modded, take it in whatever direction the song calls for. Okay, but after focusing, this is what happens. Pretty cool, right? So now I'm going to switch back and forth. Here is the original naked tracks. And here is the focus tracks. And back to the unfocus. And focus. So, pretty cool. You can hear the imaging improves, the kick and snare and toms all come forward. Much punchier, I think. A much better starting place for whatever processing you want to do, wherever you want to take it after that. There's one other thing I think I want to show you that's really cool. These are the focus tracks, and I'm going to pull out the room mic and then add it in. And I want you to hear the difference as it goes along. Here it comes. So that's no room mic at all. Now I'm going to bring it up. Now, as you can see, I actually added in quite a bit more, went over the top of how much room mic I would want to add, but you can hear that the the drums perspective doesn't change. Your focus remains. I'm going to do that same thing with the unfocused tracks. Now watch what happens when I add in the room. Hear how the drums drift backwards into the soundscape, and the focus becomes much more fuzzy.